You've crossed into Crimson Moon, where bonds run deeper than blood. Tonight's story is about power, pain, and the kind of love that doesn't let go. I'm Noktula, and this one, it howls. Let's begin.
The air in the training arena was thick with adrenaline and sweat. Warriors sparred under the high sun, steel flashing and growls echoing. Alpha Kale stood near the edge, arms folded across his broad chest, eyes scanning the new recruits without much interest, until she walked in. He didn't see her face at first. Just a figure moving through the crowd, lean muscle, quiet confidence, her gait both graceful and defiant. His wolf stirred, lifting its head as if waking from a long slumber. Kale frowned. Then she turned. The moment their eyes met, the world fell silent. Kale's breath caught in his throat. His heart punched his ribs, hard and fast. The scent, spiced citrus and warm amber, wrapped around him, grounding and electrifying all at once. Mate. His wolf roared the word so loudly it echoed through his skull. No. No, no, no. She couldn't be. Not her. Not the tiny, timid orphan girl who used to trail behind her healer aunt. Not the nobody. And yet, she was. And she was looking right at him, eyes unreadable, chin lifted like she already knew what he was about to do. Kale's jaw clenched. He took a step forward. I reject, he began. I reject you, she said, voice clear and ringing like steel against stone. He froze. The crowd silenced. Several warriors turned toward them, eyes wide. Kale blinked. What? I reject you, she repeated, louder this time. Alpha Kale of Stormfang, I, Oran Grey, reject you as my mate. He opened his mouth, but the words were gone. Her name stunned him. Oran. That scrawny, forgettable pup had vanished. The woman standing in front of him was carved from resilience and fire. Then she turned on her heel and walked away. Just like that. Leaving Kale standing in the dust, the words he'd never get to say lodged in his throat. Kale stormed into the Alpha house, his boots echoing off polished stone. He flung the door shut behind him hard enough to rattle the frame. His beta, Dren, looked up from the papers strewn across the table. What the hell happened at the arena? Dren asked. She rejected me, Kale muttered, pacing like a caged animal. Dren blinked. She what? She rejected me. Before I could reject her. The words tasted bitter. He yanked off his shirt and tossed it aside. She knew. Somehow, she knew. Dren leaned back slowly, brows knitting. Wait. You were going to reject your mate? Kale gave him a sharp look. Don't start. I'm just saying, Dren raised his hands, that's not something wolves just do. She wasn't fit to be my Luna. So you thought. Kale's glare silenced the beta, but the storm behind his eyes was louder than ever. He paced to the window and stared out at the training grounds, where she had vanished like a ghost. I didn't even know she was still in the territory, he said quietly. Last I heard, her aunt sent her off to train with some fringe pack. She must have come back for a reason. Kale ran a hand through his hair. She rejected me. With no hesitation. No pain. No weakness. Like I was just nothing. The wolf in him growled. She shouldn't have been able to do that so easily, Kale muttered. The bond. Maybe she didn't feel it, Dren said, then paused. Or maybe she did. And it didn't matter. Kale flinched. He'd always expected control, even in this. To dominate the bond, to shape the connection as it suited him. But this was something else. And the worst part? It hurt. By morning, she was gone again. Kale stood on the ridge overlooking the southern woods, the wind dragging through his hair as he watched scouts return empty-handed. No scent trail. Nothing, the lead tracker reported. It's like she vanished into thin air. She couldn't have, Kale growled. No one just disappears. But she had. No goodbye. No word. No trace. Just rejection and silence. For days, Kale searched the borders. His wolf pushed him relentlessly, refusing to rest. Every unfamiliar scent sent his heart racing, only to be crushed by disappointment. The bond should have been fraying. But it wasn't. It just sat there, quiet and heavy, like a wound that refused to bleed. Why her? He asked Dren one night, their mugs of whiskey untouched between them. Dren shrugged. The bond chooses. I had plans. A Luna who could stand beside me in court. A legacy. You don't get to outvote fate. Kale looked down into his glass. She didn't even hesitate. She didn't care. She cared, Dren said quietly. Or it wouldn't have looked so effortless. Kale's knuckles tightened around the glass. He'd always been the one in control. Always the one with the final say. But this time, she had walked away, and taken all the power with her. 2 weeks passed. Kale returned to his duties, but everything felt muted. Training drills dragged. Meetings with other alphas were dull. Even challenges from rival packs didn't stir the fire he once thrived on. He found himself back in the arena one afternoon, watching the warriors clash in mock combat. One of the younger males faltered and took a hit to the ribs. Reset, Kale barked. Form again. The boy scrambled up, breathless. You hesitate again, you'll be dead before you shift. Do it again. Alpha, came a soft voice behind him. Kale turned. Elder Mora approached, her silver braids gleaming in the sun. We need to talk. He followed her into the shade of the old temple ruin. The woman had watched 3 alphas rise and fall. When she spoke, people listened. I heard what happened with the girl, she said, sitting slowly. Oren, Kale said stiffly. Her name was Oren. Mora nodded. I remember her. Quiet. Observant. You never noticed her, did you? No, Kale admitted. She was just there. And now? Now she's a ghost. Mora's gaze sharpened. Be careful, Kale. You thought rejecting her would free you. But you never got the words out. The bond is half-cut. Unstable. Kale frowned. Half-cut? She rejected you. But you didn't return it. That bond still lives in you. Kale's jaw tightened. And if she ever returns, Mora continued, you'll feel it again. Stronger. Wilder. Kale looked out toward the horizon. He wasn't sure whether he hoped she would, or prayed she wouldn't. Late one night, Kale stood in the war room, staring at the old maps lining the stone wall. His gaze wasn't really on them. His mind kept drifting, to her. The fire in her eyes. The steel in her voice. His beta walked in without knocking. Scouts from the eastern ridge just got word, Dren said. You'll want to hear it. Kale turned. What is it? There's a rogue pack gathering near the mountain line. Organized. Armed. Kale frowned. Who's leading them? Dren hesitated. Then handed him a scroll. Kale unrolled it. His blood ran cold. The sketch was crude but unmistakable. Long braid. A scar along her collarbone. A woman standing at the center of a dozen wolves, Oren. She's leading a rogue pack. Kale said slowly, disbelieving. Seems so. And they're not hiding. He stared at the image. She'd vanished. Now she was building something beyond the borders. Without him. Without his permission. Without any need for the mate bond they once shared. And God's help him, she looked radiant. "She's not the same girl," Dren said. "I know," Kale replied quietly. And deep in his chest, his wolf growled a single word. "Mine." The Stormfang pack thrived on power, but it gorged on gossip. By the end of the week, everyone had heard the same three things. 1. Alpha Kale's mate had rejected him. 2. She left without a trace. 3. She was now leading a rogue pack near the eastern ridge. Every whispered hallway conversation twisted the story a little more. "She humiliated him," a warrior snorted in the training pit. "I heard he begged," a healer giggled behind her hand. "I bet he's going to drag her back and make an example out of her," another muttered. Kale heard it all. And he said nothing. But Dren, his loyal, unfiltered beta, was less patient. "She didn't humiliate you," he growled during a patrol debrief. "You just weren't ready for someone who didn't worship the ground you walked on." Kale shot him a warning look. Dren shrugged. "I'm not wrong." They walked through the central clearing, tension simmering between them. "You think I should go after her?" Kale asked quietly. Dren considered. "No. Not to punish her. But if you want answers?" "Yeah. You should have gotten those a long time ago." "She doesn't want to talk." "Then make her." Kale didn't respond. But later that night, he stood in front of the war table again, eyes fixed on the eastern ridge. Her rogue symbol, two wolves flanking a rising sun, was carved into the latest scout report. She wasn't just surviving out there. She was building something. Oren had always been good at disappearing. Even as a child, she had slipped in and out of rooms like smoke, observing, listening, absorbing everything. But now, the silence she once used to survive had become her armor. Her warriors respected it. She didn't speak unless necessary. She trained them harder than any alpha she had ever known. And in return, they followed her without question. Still, some nights, she stood at the edge of their new stronghold, an abandoned stone keep perched on the edge of the mountains, and wondered if he still thought of her. Kale. She hated that name still meant something. She'd felt the bond snap into place that day in the arena. The pull had been immediate, scorching. And still, she'd rejected him without blinking. Because she had to. Not for pride. Not for revenge. But because being his mate would have broken her. She remembered him from her childhood, distant, cold, ambitious. He never looked her way. Not when her aunt died. Not when she was sent off to train in exile. He was the golden alpha, the future of Stormfang. And she was the nobody he never saw. Until he did. Too late. "Everything all right?" asked Kai, her second in command. Tall, loyal, and nearly impossible to rattle. She nodded, pulling her cloak tighter against the wind. "We move next week," she said. "New territory, better training ground." "North, toward Stormfang?" Kai asked. She didn't answer. He smiled faintly. "You don't have to explain. Just tell me if we're going to war." "Not yet," Oren said. "But if Kale crosses that line." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Kale stood alone in the pack's private courtyard, stone lanterns casting flickering shadows across the polished marble. His hand flexed involuntarily as he felt it again, that dull, pulsing ache in his chest. The bond. Still there. Still throbbing like an old wound that refused to close. He poured himself a glass of something stronger than whiskey, something meant to numb. It didn't. A knock broke the silence. Elder Mora stepped in, her gaze sharper than the mountain wind. "I warned you," she said. "Half-cut bonds leave scars." Kale downed the drink. "Then cut it." Her eyes narrowed. "It's not that simple." "Isn't it?" he said, voice low. "She rejected me. I accepted that. Isn't that enough? You didn't reject her. You just didn't get the chance. That's not the same. He looked away. She's still connected to you, Mora continued. She's strong enough to control it. But you? You're bleeding from it, even if you don't show it. I don't care. Yes, you do. He didn't deny it. Couldn't. Mora moved closer, lowering her voice. You want her back? He flinched. Then earn it. She didn't walk away because she hated you. She walked away because she couldn't survive the version of you that never saw her. Kale stared into the fire pit. The truth burned more than the flames. The rogue territory Oren had claimed wasn't just land. It was freedom. No councils to impress. No traditions to uphold. No alphas demanding her submission. Her warriors came from shattered packs, banished bloodlines, lone wolves. She gave them purpose, training, and a place to belong. And in return, they gave her loyalty. In full armor, Oren looked nothing like the orphaned girl she once was. The scar across her collarbone was a reminder of that final training battle, where she earned her place at the head of the rogues. No ceremony. No crown. Just blood and grit. Riders spotted 3 miles off, Kai reported as she entered the meeting hall. Stormfang scouts, she asked, already turning to the map. Too far to tell. But they're circling. Not attacking. Oren's fingers hovered above the ridge pass. They're testing boundaries, she said. They'll want to know what you're building, Kai replied. Just like he will. She didn't respond. But later that night, in the privacy of her chambers, she unfolded a faded letter from her pack archives, an old prophecy Mora once spoke of. The bond once severed may bleed again. Not for weakness. But for strength reclaimed. She stared at the words for a long time. She had thought severing the bond would free her. Now she wasn't so sure. Kale wasn't idle. By dawn, he was already in the sparring circle, his beta and 2 enforcers pushing him hard. Bruises bloomed across his ribs, sweat rolled down his neck, but none of it dulled the sharp edge in his mind. She was close. Every scout confirmed the rogue pack's slow expansion north. They weren't invading, but they were creeping steadily closer. Planning a raid? Dren asked between rounds. No, Kale said. A visit. Dren raised a brow. Diplomatic? Kale didn't answer. He changed into black armor, his crest polished but unadorned. No symbols of rank. No show of force. Just presence. You sure about this? Dren asked. She's not the same girl, Kale. She might not want to talk. Kale strapped on his blade. Then she can tell me that to my face. Hours later, he stood on the edge of rogue land, dismounted and alone. Kai met him first, tension written across his face. I come in peace, Kale said. No warriors. No threat. Kai nodded slowly. She'll see you. But don't expect welcome. He was led through the camp, quiet, orderly, disciplined. Better trained than he expected. He could feel it everywhere, the respect she commanded, the strength she had built. Then she stepped out from the keep. Oren. Cloaked in black, eyes sharp as ever. And her voice? Steel and frost. You're trespassing. He bowed slightly. I came to talk. She crossed her arms. We have nothing to say. Yes, we do, he said softly. You rejected me once. I accepted that. But I never said what I wanted. And now you think I care? No, Kale said. But I do. A pause. The camp waited, watching. Oren's eyes didn't soften. But her voice did. Talk. Then get out. Kale wasn't sure what he expected, but it wasn't this. Oren stood before him like the ghost of every sleepless night since her rejection, except stronger, colder, and far more composed than memory allowed. Her cloak snapped in the mountain breeze, her eyes narrowed. "You have 5 minutes, Alpha," she said flatly. "I didn't come here as an alpha," Kale replied. "Then turn around and leave like a man." Kale gave a short breath. Not a laugh. "Not quite. You've changed." "No," she said. "I've just stopped hiding." They walked toward a stone outpost near the center of the camp. Her second, Kai, stood nearby, arms crossed, eyes alert. Kale didn't miss the subtle formation of warriors taking quiet positions around the edges of the field. She was expecting an ambush. That hurt more than he expected. They stepped inside. The chamber was Spartan, a stone table, 2 chairs, a map pinned to the wall. No throne. No fanfare. Just control. "You've built something impressive," he said. "I built something mine." "I didn't come to fight," Kale said after a pause. "I came to understand." Her eyes narrowed. "Understand what?" "Why I didn't let you reject me first." "No. Why you didn't even look back." Her lips parted slightly, just for a moment. Then she pulled the steel mask over her expression again. "I didn't owe you a backward glance. I was your mate." She tilted her head. "You were my mistake." The words were meant to wound, and they did. But Kale didn't flinch. "Not this time." "You're wrong," he said. "And I think part of you knows it." Oren pushed away from the table. "Time's up." Kale didn't argue. As he walked out of her camp, her scent clinging to him like fire, his chest ached in places his wolf couldn't name. She was still his mate. But she no longer belonged to him. By the time Kale returned to Stormfang, the gossip had died down, but something else had replaced it. Curiosity. The warriors noticed his silence. The healers watched the way his eyes drifted toward the ridge during meetings. And Dren? Dren noticed everything. "She tore into you, didn't she?" the beta asked as they patrolled the southern ridge. "She spoke her mind." "That's putting it kindly." Kale didn't rise to the bait. He slowed his stride and glanced toward the mountains. "She's not who I remember. She's precise. Cold. Measured." "She had to become that," Dren said simply. "We both know what happens to wolves with no protection. She made herself into her own pack." Kale didn't argue. Later, he stood in the pack archives, reading through old scrolls Mora had tucked away, documents about bond imbalances, fractured ties, reconnected pairs. It all came back to one thing. Oren hadn't just rejected him. She'd rewritten herself. And the bond still lingered, half-tethered, frayed at both ends, whispering of what could have been. He clenched the scroll in his hand and muttered under his breath. "I'm not done." Kai watched from the battlement as Oren sparred with 2 warriors at once. Dust kicked up around her boots, sweat gleamed along her brow, but her focus never wavered. She moved like wind and fire, unrelenting, beautiful, deadly. "Why not kill him?" asked Rhea, one of their scouts, quietly. Kai didn't look away. "Because she doesn't hate him enough." "Could have fooled me." "She still feels something," he said. "That's what scares her." Oren disarmed both opponents with a brutal double spin and kicked one to the ground. Her breathing was steady, not strained. She turned to Kai, sweat trailing down her cheek. "Report." Kai nodded. 2 emissaries from River Fang arrived. "Their Alpha is asking for a meeting." She wiped her face with a cloth. "Why?" "He's heard about our training methods. Our growth. Does he know who leads us?" "Not yet." Her eyes darkened. Then let's surprise him. 3 days later, the rogue stronghold opened its gates to the emissaries of Alpha Theron of Riverfang. Theron was a broad-shouldered man with a commanding presence and a wolf known for aggression. He stepped into the war hall like he owned it, until he saw who sat at the head of the table. Oren. Theron faltered, then gave her a slow, appraising smile. Alpha Grey, I presume? You presume correctly, she said. Kale, had he seen it, would have noticed the subtle shift in her posture. Not submissive. Not guarded. Simply unmoved. Theron's eyes gleamed with interest. I've heard of your warriors. And I see now the rumors were modest. She didn't smile. He leaned forward. Rogue or not, you have strength. I see value in aligning. Meaning, she asked. An alliance. Mateship, if you're open to it. Kai stiffened. Rhea outright scoffed. Oren tilted her head. You've known me for 5 minutes. I'm not proposing love, Alpha Grey. I'm proposing power. Territory. Legacy. She stood slowly. I didn't claw my way up a mountain to be anyone's second chapter, she said. Theron's grin faded. You'll regret turning me down. No, she replied coldly. You'll regret underestimating me. By nightfall, Theron had stormed off the territory with his pride limping behind him. Kai approached her quietly. You all right? I've never been clearer. But her fingers brushed the scar along her collarbone, and for just a second, her eyes softened. Kale was at the council chamber when he got the report. Alpha Theron had visited the rogue stronghold. He'd proposed alliance, and possibly mating. And Oren had turned him down. She's not looking for power, Kale said aloud. Dren, seated across from him, nodded. No. She already has it. Kale stood and paced to the window. I want to meet her again. You've met her. I want to talk to her. Dren folded his arms. And if she doesn't want to listen? Then I'll give her a reason. That night, Kale penned a letter. Not as an alpha. Not as a warrior. Just a man who had made a mistake. Oren. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect your time. But I ask for a moment, just one, so I can say the things I should have said years ago. Not as Alpha Kale of Stormfang. But as the man who should have seen you before you had to become a ghost to be noticed. He sealed it with no title. No name. Just an old token, her aunt's silver ring, which he'd kept all these years and never knew why. He sent Dren to deliver it. And waited. Kale was restless. Even Dren, who had learned to read the Alpha better than most, kept his distance as Kale stalked the perimeter trail for the 3rd time that morning. The wolves gave him space. The air itself seemed wary. She hasn't replied, Kale muttered aloud, even though no one was near. His wolf snarled within him. Not in anger, in pain. It wasn't just emotional anymore. The fractured bond pulsed like a phantom limb. The ache of something unfinished. Dren finally approached after Kale circled back near the Western Guard post. She got the letter, he said quietly. Kale froze. And? She read it. Didn't say a word. Just walked away. Kale said nothing. The silence stretched until Dren added, she kept the ring. That made Kale's heart stutter. She could have tossed it. Burned it. She didn't. Kale exhaled slowly. That doesn't mean anything. It means something. Dren paused, then added, but there's more. A rogue courier came through our eastern ridge this morning. Neutral emblem. Just passing a message. Kale raised a brow. From her? No. But about her. Alpha Theron sent word to 3 packs asking for an alliance against the rogue threat. Kale's jaw clenched. He wants her crushed. He can't control her, Dren said. So now he'll try to erase her. Kale looked out toward the horizon, where the sun crested the trees. He wasn't the only one haunted by her rise. Oren didn't sleep that night. The letter from Kale lay folded on the stone ledge by her window, untouched since she first read it. The ring, her aunt's, rested in her palm. Cold. Solid. Painfully familiar. She turned it over between her fingers. He kept this, she whispered. She didn't know whether to feel angry or something else. Still holding on to ghosts? Kai asked from the doorway, voice low. She didn't answer. He stepped into the room, crossing his arms. What's it say? That he regrets everything. Do you believe him? Oren's silence was answer enough. Kai moved closer, his voice softer now. You don't have to let him back in just because he says the right words. I know. But you want to. That earned him a sharp look. He held it without apology. You're not stone, Oren. You're not as unreachable as you want them to think. That was the whole point of building this, wasn't it? A place where no one could be alone like you were. Oren swallowed hard. Her voice came out quiet, choked. He left me in the silence. He didn't see you. No. But I saw him. Every time he looked past me, I saw it. Kai rested a hand on her shoulder. He's looking now. She didn't pull away. But she didn't say anything, either. Kale didn't sleep either. The dreams were worse than usual, memories warped by regret. He saw her as a child again, small and thin, eyes too large for her face. She'd sat alone during gatherings, hands folded, voice silent. He'd looked past her so many times. Not out of cruelty, just disinterest. Until she left. Then she became impossible to forget. He jolted awake in the early hours, heart pounding. The moon hung high, cold and watchful. He went to the sparring yard. Alone. No shirt. No gloves. Just bare fists and the training post. He punched until his knuckles split, until the wood splintered, until his shoulders burned. And still, he saw her. He remembered her turning her back that day at the arena. The steel in her voice. The finality in her step. She beat him to it. Not just the rejection, but the choice. She'd chosen herself. Long before he realized he'd ever had a choice to make. Alpha Kale, the northern delegation is waiting. Kale rolled his shoulder as he walked into the chamber. Politics were never his favorite thing, but with Theron stirring trouble, he couldn't afford to ignore his allies. 3 alphas stood at the council table, 2 older men from smaller packs, and a woman from Hollowpine. All had the same concern. Rogue territory expansion threatens trade routes, one said. And rogue blood is unregulated, another added. Unmarked wolves? No law? It's chaos. Kale raised a brow. She's not attacking anyone. She doesn't have to, said the Hollowpine Alpha. Her existence is the threat. Kale's jaw twitched. Because she leads without a mate? Because she's gathering wolves faster than we can count, the woman replied. Kale scanned their faces. You want me to lead a purge? No one spoke. He straightened. Then you're wasting your breath. Kale. She's not your problem. She's not your threat. Not yet. But Theron is. He's stirring fear because he's already lost her interest. That's what this is. You speak as though you know her well, the older Alpha said slowly. Kale's smile didn't reach his eyes. I didn't. That was my first mistake. Oren watched the letter burn in the hearth. She hadn't responded, not because she had nothing to say, but because anything she said would mean something. Kai entered without knocking. "You ready? Let's go." She dressed in a hooded cloak, nothing ornate, and left the stronghold under moonlight. With Kai and Rhea flanking her, they crossed into neutral ground 2 miles west of Stormfang territory. She didn't send a message. She wanted to see if he would notice. They made camp near the streambank, her warriors moving silently. The air buzzed with tension, but Oren remained still. Until Kale arrived. She felt him before she saw him. He emerged from the trees like a storm waiting to break, cloak dark, face unreadable. "Why are you here?" he asked. "I didn't come for you," she replied. "I came to see what the land would tell me." His gaze moved over her face, searching. "And what did it say?" "That the bond isn't broken." He stepped closer. "Then why won't you let it heal?" "Because healing means forgiving. And I'm not ready." Kale nodded once. "Then let me earn it." Oren didn't answer. But she didn't walk away either. And for the first time in years, they stood side by side in silence, not as enemies. Not as mates. Just 2 wolves, learning how not to bleed. Kale had expected the silence to be awkward, but Oren wore it like armor. They walked the perimeter of her temporary camp just before sunrise, both wolves alert, eyes scanning the terrain. Her steps were deliberate. Focused. He tried not to read into the fact that she still walked ahead of him, not beside him. "This stream," she said eventually, "feeds straight into Stormfang territory. If I dam it, I control your southern water line." Kale didn't blink. "You're not here to build a dam." "No. But I want you to understand that I could." Kale watched her, then nodded once. "I understand." She looked over her shoulder, voice flat. "Good. Then you'll also understand that if you're here just to win me over, I'll send your beta back your direction with your pride in a box." He stopped walking. "I'm not here for you," he said. "Not only you." She arched a brow. "I'm here because I believe the rogue territories deserve protection," he continued. "Because if Theron keeps whispering about war, someone needs to stop him before he turns talk into action." Oren stepped closer, eyes sharp. "You don't get to suddenly play noble." "I'm not trying to. I'm trying to help." She studied him for a long moment, as if weighing every word he'd ever spoken against the man in front of her now. Then she turned away. "If you want to help, train with my warriors tomorrow. At dawn." Kale tilted his head. "To prove something?" "No," she said without looking back. "To learn something." The next morning, Kale stood in the circle of warriors as they prepared to spar. He wore no alpha insignia. No storm-colored cloak. Just plain, unmarked gear like the others. Oren watched from the sidelines, arms crossed, silent but attentive. "Rhea," Kai called. "You're up." The scout stepped forward, all sharp angles and speed. Kale squared his stance. He hadn't underestimated her, but she was faster than expected, and she didn't pull punches. She landed the first blow to his ribs. The second glanced off his jaw. The third swept his legs. Kale hit the ground hard, breath knocked out of him. The watching warriors said nothing. They simply stared, waiting to see what he'd do next. He got up, brushed the dirt off, and met Rhea's smirk with a steady look. Again. The second round was cleaner. He anticipated her feints and landed a shoulder hit that sent her skidding back. A murmur of approval moved through the crowd. But as the match continued, Rhea's movements grew sharper, reckless. She went for his throat in a move meant to intimidate, not train. Her claws grazed skin. "Rhea," Kai warned, but too late. Kale countered, and she misstepped, slipping into a collision course with his blade. Before he could pull back, a figure blurred between them. Oren. She caught Rhea by the arm and deflected Kale's strike with her own. The clang of steel echoed in the air. Silence fell. Oren stepped back, placing herself between them. Training, she said evenly, is not a battlefield. Control your rage, or leave my ranks. Rhea dipped her head, jaw tight. Yes, Alpha. She stalked off. Oren turned to Kale. You alright? He nodded. Thanks. You're lucky I still care about my warriors not bleeding to death. Kale gave a half smile. Even me? Oren rolled her eyes and walked away, but he noticed she didn't answer. Later that day, Kale found himself standing beside the camp's central fire pit, watching Kai organize supplies. The second-in-command noticed his presence and sighed. She only saves people she hasn't entirely given up on, Kai said without looking at him. I'm not trying to read into it. You should, Kai muttered. Then he finally looked up. You have no idea what she went through, do you? Kale's brows drew together. I know I hurt her. I just didn't realize how deep. Kai walked over, wiped his hands on a cloth, and leaned against a nearby crate. She came back from exile with nothing. No allies. No support. Just her wolf and her stubbornness. I never knew why she left, Kale admitted. Because she heard you were going to reject her. Kale stilled. She heard it from one of your enforcers. Word got around. You never said it out loud, but the plan was made. The moment the bond snapped into place, you were going to cut it. Kale closed his eyes. She rejected you first, Kai said, because you already had. There was no venom in his voice. Just truth. Kale swallowed hard. I didn't think she'd care. We barely knew each other. She cared more than you'll ever know. That night, Oren stood on the cliff that overlooked the forest. Kale joined her in silence. I heard you asked Kai about my past, she said without turning. I didn't ask. He told me anyway. She glanced at him. And? I deserved every word. She let the silence stretch, then sighed. You think this is easy for me? Seeing you again. Letting you into my territory. I spent years trying to forget you. Trying to hate you. Did it work? Most days, she said quietly. He looked out over the trees. You built something beautiful here. I built something that can't be taken from me. Kale nodded slowly. I won't take anything from you. Oren's eyes slid toward him, assessing. Then what do you want? I want to be someone worth forgiving. She blinked. That, of all things, seemed to catch her off guard. You think you can earn that? I can try. She considered him for a long moment. Then, finally, she said, then help me with something. What? Theron's planning something. I've seen the movement near the southern ridge. It's not just talk anymore. Kale's jaw tensed. You want to move first. I want to defend what's mine before it becomes another thing I lose. Kale nodded. Then we moved together. She didn't smile. But she also didn't argue. The next day, they planned. Oren spread a map across the stone table in the war room. Kale stood beside her, Dren just behind his Alpha's shoulder, and Kai to Oren's left. Old rivalries buzzed like gnats in the air, but none of them spoke about the past. Not right now. This ridge, Oren pointed, is where Theron's men crossed 2 days ago. If we intercept there, we can drive them back without risking open war. Kale traced the terrain with a fingertip. Too steep. They'll expect an ambush there. What about here, at the lower bend? She looked at him, then the map. You're right. It's unprotected. Kai raised a brow. You two finishing each other's war strategies now? Oren shot him a look. Stay focused. Dren leaned over. We'll need both packs working together. No false starts. We pull this off, we send a message. And if we fail? Kai asked. Oren's voice was clear. Then we fall on our feet. And we show them why we survived. Kale glanced at her. Her eyes weren't guarded anymore. Not fully. After the meeting, as the room emptied, he paused beside her. You said I wasn't worth forgiving, he said. I said I wasn't ready. He held her gaze. Are you? Oren looked away. I don't know. Kale nodded. Then I'll keep earning it. She didn't answer, but when he turned to leave, she didn't stop him. And that was the first crack. Not in her armor. In her silence. The forest was too quiet. Kale stood on a slope above the southern ridge, wind raking through his hair as the sky threatened rain. Below, Oren crouched by a half-buried snare, fingers brushing the broken twine. He sent scouts, she said. Too many to be harmless. Kale scanned the trees. How long ago? 2 days. Maybe 3. They're watching. Testing you. No, she corrected. Testing us. Their eyes met. Kale felt the pulse of something wordless stretch between them. Not the bond, it wasn't that simple anymore. It was something heavier. Real. Behind them, Kai and Dren stood with 10 warriors, mixed between Stormfang and the rogues. Unlikely allies with sharp eyes. We can't wait for them to strike, Oren said. Theron wants to catch me stretched thin. We go to him? Kale asked. She shook her head. We make him come to us. How? By making him think we're exposed. We'll bait him. Then trap him in the bend. Kale frowned. It's risky. Everything is, Oren said. That's what you never understood about rogues. We don't win by being careful. He stepped closer. And if he comes in force? Then we remind him I'm not the little girl who left Stormfang in silence. 2 nights later, the bait was set. A decoy patrol, 3 rogues and 2 Stormfang warriors, moved openly across the lower valley trail. They staggered their pace, feigned weakness, limped as if returning from a failed hunt. Theron took the bait. Oren stood on the ridgeline with Kale, Kai, and Dren, watching shadows move through the trees below. 20 men, Dren muttered. More than expected. Kai's jaw clenched. You still want to go through with this? Yes, Oren said. We've got 1 shot. If they breach the high ground, we lose the camp. Kale gripped the hilt of his blade. We hold the bend. No matter what. She looked at him, something unreadable in her expression. You're not doing this to prove yourself, are you? She asked. No, Kale said. I'm doing it because I care what happens to you. She blinked once. That was it. Then she nodded. Good. When the trap sprang, it was chaos. The first wave of Theron's scouts moved quietly, until a buried tripwire brought 3 to their knees. Arrows followed, fast and precise. Kai's flank surged forward to push them toward the bend. Dren's group cut off their retreat. Kale fought beside Oren, back to back, her blade flashing like lightning in the dark. Her movements were flawless, fluid, deadly. He covered her blind side. She caught his when he stumbled. They didn't speak, but they didn't need to. They moved like they had been doing it for years. When the final body hit the ground, silence fell. Oren stood in the center of it, bloodied but unbroken. Her chest rose and fell, and for the first time in years, Kale saw it, not just her strength, but her fury. Her right to lead. She'll be a threat, Theron had once warned. He hadn't been wrong. The survivors limped back to Theron's camp, and within hours, retaliation came. Not with soldiers. Not with weapons. With a message. Kale found it first, tacked to a tree just outside Stormfang's border. One of Oren's younger rogues, Jessa, barely 17, was dead. Her body was untouched, but her neck bore a mark, 3 deep claw lines. A warning. Kale knelt beside her in silence, fists shaking. Dren crouched nearby, face grim. He's trying to provoke her, Dren said. Make her lash out. He's trying to make her look like a savage. Kale pulled the girl's cloak gently over her body. He's playing a political game. If she retaliates without cause, she looks like a threat. Unstable. She'll want blood, Dren warned. You know that. Kale stood. Then we give her a better target. Back at the rogue camp, Oren stood in the war hall, staring at Jessa's covered body, eyes burning but dry. She was just a child, she whispered. Kale approached her slowly. He wants you to react. I am reacting. Then react smart, Kale said. Make him regret testing you, but not like this. If we go in wild, we lose everything you built. She turned toward him. I don't want to be reasonable right now. I know. She paced. Her wolf paced inside her, too. Ready to tear something apart. Then she stopped. I want a meeting. With the alphas he's trying to win over. All 3. Tomorrow. Kale blinked. You're going to talk. I'm going to make sure they know exactly what he's risking, before I make my next move. The meeting took place in neutral ground, under the great pines where the Council of Old Packs used to convene. Kale arrived first with Dren. Oren came with Kai and 2 warriors, cloaked, silent, but imposing. Her presence changed the air the moment she entered. The 3 invited alphas, Hollowpine, Redfang, and Silver Hollow, arrived slowly, looking wary. They didn't meet her eyes right away. Oren didn't care. She stepped forward and spoke before pleasantries could begin. Alpha Theron murdered a 17-year-old girl in my territory 2 nights ago. He did it without provocation. Without a declaration. And without honor. Gasps rippled through the group. The Hollowpine Alpha, the same one who once questioned her existence, asked stiffly, "Do you have proof?" Kale stepped forward. She bore his mark. And I have a Stormfang scout who saw the message delivered. Oren's voice was razor sharp. This is what he's trying to bring to your doorsteps. Not strength. Not peace. Fear. Cowardice. The killing of children. The Silver Hollow Alpha, a quiet woman named Lyra, frowned. You want us to turn on him? No, Oren said. I want you to stand with me. 1 rogue pack. 1 Stormfang Alpha. Against the one man who thinks he can silence both. A pause. Then Lyra stepped forward. I'll stand with you. The Hollowpine Alpha hesitated, and finally nodded. Redfang gave a grunt. You've got steel, Alpha Grey. I'll take your side. For now. Kale looked over at Oren. She wasn't smiling. But her eyes were no longer cold. That night, back at the rogue stronghold, Oren sat at the edge of the keep wall, overlooking the moonlit valley. The cold wind tugged at her hair, but she didn't shiver. Kale approached, slower this time, as if unsure of his welcome. You did good, he said quietly. I didn't want to play politics. You didn't. You told the truth. That's what turned them. She nodded once. Thank you for standing with me. Kale's throat worked. I should have done it years ago. Oren looked over at him. Would you have? If I hadn't rejected you? I don't know, he admitted. I wasn't the man you needed back then. And now? I don't want to need the bond to care, he said. I want to earn the right to stand beside you, bond or not. She studied him for a long time, then looked away. My wolf still feels you, she admitted. But it's different now. How? It doesn't hurt like it used to. Kale stepped closer, but didn't touch her. Then let me be here. Without expectation. Just, here. She didn't respond, but when he sat down beside her, she didn't move away either. For the first time in a long time, Oren let herself breathe. Not as a rogue. Not as a forgotten mate. Just a woman with something worth protecting, and someone willing to fight for it beside her. The alarm bells rang at dawn. Oren was on her feet before the second bell tolled, already strapping her blades in place. Kai burst into her quarters, breathing hard. Stormfang's eastern line was breached, he said. 3 of our scouts are down. Theron? She asked. We think so. But he's not using his own men this time. She paused, eyes narrowing. What do you mean? Kai's mouth tightened. They wore Red Fang colors. Oren's pulse ticked. Red Fang pledged neutrality 2 nights ago. So either they lied, or someone's pulling their strings. Kale was already in the field when Oren arrived. He stood over one of the wounded, Rhea, bleeding from the shoulder but conscious. They came in silence, Rhea said, grimacing. Didn't even smell like wolves. Kale looked up at Oren. Mercenaries. Theron's paying outsiders to do his dirty work. Dren approached, expression grim. And planting them in allied colors. He's trying to break your coalition. He thinks if he makes the other alphas look like traitors, we'll fracture. Kale rose. Then we don't give him the chance. Oren nodded once. It's time we visit Red Fang. Unannounced. The Red Fang territory was smaller than Storm Fang, but heavily fortified. High walls. Guard towers. Wolves that didn't smile. Oren stood at the gate, flanked by Kale, Kai, and Dren. Tell your alpha we're not here for tea, she said to the guards. Within minutes, they were led into the stone hall. Alpha Marek of Red Fang waited on his throne, gray-bearded, broad-shouldered, eyes too quick to be innocent. Oren Gray, he drawled. Didn't expect you so soon. We buried 3 of our scouts this morning, she said. They died wearing your colors. Marek didn't blink. Then someone's using my name without my permission. You expect me to believe that? Kale stepped forward. We've fought beside your warriors, Marek. We know their fighting style. This was them. Marek's eyes moved between them. And what would I gain by siding with Theron? I pledged neutrality. Exactly, Oren said coldly. You get to watch from the sidelines while Theron burns us both down, and pretend your hands are clean. Marek's face twisted. I won't be spoken to like. Like a coward? Oren interrupted. Then stop acting like one. Silence. Kale's voice was quiet but sharp. If you stand with him, stand openly. If not, prove it. Help us. Marek leaned back, fingers drumming the arm of his throne. Then he smirked. I'm not joining your little rebellion, he said. But I won't stand in your way. That's all you get. Oren met his eyes. That's not enough. It'll have to be. They left Red Fang territory with nothing but frustration. He's stalling, Kai said as they crossed back into neutral land. No, Oren replied, voice dark. He's waiting to pick the winning side. They returned to the southern valley expecting quiet. Instead, they were met with smoke. Rhea sprinted toward them the moment they entered camp, blood on her arm, eyes wild. They struck while you were gone, she panted. 20 of them. Not rogues. Trained. Precision hits. They knew where our guards rotated. Oren's heart sank. Casualties? 5 dead. 6 injured. Kai clenched his jaw. Someone inside our camp fed them that information. Kale turned to Rhea, who was on patrol. She hesitated. Garen led the outer ring. But he was one of the first hit. Kale's face darkened. Someone knew exactly when we'd be gone. They weren't trying to conquer, Oren said. They were testing our soft spots. And leaving a message, Dren added. He handed her a torn banner, part of their training yard's post. On it was scrawled a single word, in blood. Kneel. Oren crushed it in her fist. I'm done reacting, she said. We take this to Theron. Directly. Kale nodded. We move at first light. No, she corrected. We move now. Theron's fortress sat high on a rocky ridge, surrounded by spike-rooted trees and stone towers. It wasn't built for show, it was built to outlast siege. Oren stood at its gates with Kale and Kai at her sides. No masks. No subtlety. She wanted to be seen. The guards didn't try to block them. Word had already spread. Theron met them in the outer courtyard, flanked by warriors twice the size of his usual scouts. He looked calm. Amused. Well, he said. Look who came crawling back. Don't flatter yourself, Oren said. We came to give you a chance. He raised a brow. A chance? To surrender. Publicly. Before we tear your walls down. Theron laughed. You really think I'm afraid of a half-built pack and a guilty mate? Kale stepped forward, calm and deadly. She's more than you'll ever be. Theron's eyes flicked to him. Still following her, Kale? Still trying to fix the mistake you made? Kale didn't flinch. I don't follow her. I stand beside her. Something in Theron's face cracked for a second. Jealousy? Bitterness? He recovered quickly. You want war, Oren? Fine. But when your pack burns, I'll be there to watch. Oren's voice was quiet. No. You won't. Then she turned and walked away. Not because she was afraid. Because she already knew how the battle would end. Back at camp, the mood was tense. Wolves cleaned blood off armor, tended wounds, sharpened weapons. It was the calm before a storm. Oren sat in the strategy tent, staring at the map. Her fingers tapped the same corner again and again. Kale entered silently. She didn't look up. He won't stop, she murmured. Not until he's bleeding or crowned. Kale sat across from her. Then we make sure it's blood. She finally looked up. You know I can't promise survival. I'm not asking for survival, he said. I'm asking for a place beside you until the end. Her breath caught. Slowly, she removed her gloves and reached across the table. He took her hand, calloused, scarred, strong. Their bond pulsed. Still faint. Still damaged. But no longer cold. I didn't think I'd ever feel this again, she whispered. Kale's voice was steady. I don't need a perfect bond. I just need you. They sat in silence, fingers intertwined. No titles. No past. Just a rogue and an alpha, who had finally stopped running. The camp was too quiet. Oren stood on the balcony of the old stone watchtower, watching torches flicker below. Her warriors were sharpening weapons, oiling armor, and saying little. No jokes. No tension-breaking bravado. Just the kind of silence that always came before bloodshed. Kale approached, his steps light despite the weight in his shoulders. They're ready, he said. They're terrified, Oren corrected. Good. That means they'll fight smart. She gave a dry smile. You always were better at speeches. I don't think anyone believes that. He leaned beside her on the ledge. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Oren said, after tomorrow, this bond between us, whether it survives or doesn't, it won't matter anymore. Kale didn't flinch. Why not? Because everything changes after war. You know that. Kale looked at her, quiet for a beat. I won't walk away after this. Even if we win? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. Especially if we win. Oren didn't answer. But when she turned her hand palm up, Kale took it without hesitation. They didn't speak again. They just stood there, two wolves who had stopped pretending that the past didn't matter, and decided the future would belong to them, whatever it looked like. Dawn broke cold and gray. Kale and Oren stood at the front lines, shoulder to shoulder. Behind them, warriors from both packs, Rogue and Stormfang alike, gathered in formation. Silver Hollow had sent 10 scouts. Hollowpine sent reinforcements overnight. Red Fang, notably, was absent. Kai stood beside Rhea near the ridge, giving final instructions. Dren double-checked the southern flanks. Oren nodded once. Move. Their strategy was brutal in its simplicity, a two-pronged attack from the western forest and northern cliff edge, while a third group, led by Oren and Kale, took the central gate head-on. Theron's soldiers were waiting. As Kale's sword clashed with the first wave, he could already feel the difference. These weren't just sentries or mercenaries, they were trained for war. Oren cut through them like a flame in dry grass, swift and merciless. Her wolf flickered at the edge of her control, begging to be released. But she didn't shift. Not yet. Then came the signal. A howl, Kai's. The northern flank had breached the secondary barricade. We're in. Dren shouted from the tree-line. Kale glanced at Oren. Now? Now. They shifted simultaneously. His storm-gray wolf. Her shadow-black one. They tore through the ranks like vengeance given shape, clearing the path to Theron's keep. But the real fight hadn't begun. Back at the ridge, Kai noticed the trap a second too late. A volley of arrows rained from the eastern slope. Red Fang warriors, fully armored, emerged from the woods, blades drawn. They lied, Rhea spat, already drawing her weapon. Fall back to the ridge. Kai bellowed. The Red Fang traders pressed hard, cutting down 2 Hollowpine soldiers before Kai's group could regroup. He snarled, shifting mid-run, barreling into a wolf who wore Marek's insignia. You pledged peace. Kai growled mid-clash. The Red Fang wolf grinned with bloodied teeth. Peace is for the weak. By the time reinforcements arrived, 4 more had fallen. But something shifted. Stormfang warriors arrived from the southern tree line, led by Dren. Together, they flanked the Red Fang ambush, forcing Marek's wolves into retreat. Kai panted beside Rhea. Get word to Oren. Tell her Marek's made his choice. Rhea wiped blood from her arm. What about you? I'm going after Marek. The inner keep was burning. Oren and Kale reached the main courtyard, stepping over bodies, blood slicking the stone beneath their boots. Her wolf was still beneath her skin, close, but not fully out. Theron stood at the top of the stairs, flanked by 2 elite guards. He looked untouched. Proud. I wondered how long it would take, he called down. Your army's broken, Kale said. I can make more, Theron snapped. You think wolves won't follow power? I don't want power, Oren said. I want peace. You made that impossible. Theron descended a step. You're still just a rogue bitch with a stolen title. Kale bared his teeth. Careful. Or what? Theron sneered. You'll kill me over her? You're a fool. No, Kale said. I'm her mate. And I'm not afraid of what that means anymore. That, more than anything, seemed to enrage Theron. He lunged. Kale met him midair, claws to claws, blade to blade. Oren didn't hesitate. She dispatched one guard with a clean strike, ducked beneath the other, and sank her knife into his ribs. Kale and Theron fought like two storms colliding. But Theron was older. Meaner. More desperate. Kale staggered from a brutal blow to the ribs. Oren's heart lurched. She moved before thinking, knocking Theron off balance, forcing him back. He slashed wildly, cutting her shoulder. She hissed, spinning around and plunging her blade beneath his collarbone. Theron gasped. Stumbled. And fell. It was over. The sun was setting by the time the battlefield quieted. Stormfang and rogue wolves alike gathered outside the broken gates. Some injured. Some mourning. But alive. Oren stood over Theron's body, her face unreadable. Kale came to her side, his arm wrapped, blood staining his shirt. It's done, he said. No, she replied. It's beginning. The next morning, Alpha Marek of Red Fang was found bound at the border, a Stormfang blade through his insignia. Kai and Dren delivered him to Silver Hollow's custody. I don't want him dead, Oren said. I want him known for what he is. A traitor. A coward. He would live, but never lead again. A week later, Oren stood in the center of the rogue stronghold, a circle of allies gathered around her, Stormfang, Hollowpine, Silver Hollow. The alliance was no longer whispered. It was real. And recognized. Rogue no longer means outcast, she said. It means survivor. It means warrior. It means alpha. The crowd roared. Later that night, she returned to the tower, where Kale waited with quiet eyes and a folded cloak in his hands. I brought this back from the ruins, he said. It was your mother's. She touched it with reverence. Then looked at him. You stayed. I told you I would. And now? Kale stepped closer. Now I ask one thing. Oren tilted her head. What? Let's choose each other. Not because fate says so. Because we do. She didn't need time to think. She took his hand, firm and sure. I already have. The morning sun cast golden light over the clearing, where the packs had gathered. It was time. Oren stood at the center, her heart steady despite the crowd. Wolves from Stormfang, Hollowpine, Silver Hollow, and the rogues, all bound now by more than survival, watched in respectful silence. Kale stepped forward, beside her, hands unclenched but ready. Kai, Dren, and even Rhea stood near, their faces fierce but proud. Silver Hollow's Alpha Lyra raised her voice. Today, we honor more than an alliance. We honor the strength of a rogue who refused to be broken. Oren's gaze swept the circle. I was rejected once, by fate and by the pack I was born into. A murmur ran through the crowd. But I stand here because I chose to fight, to survive, and to build a family where none believed one could exist. Kale's voice joined hers, steady and unwavering. The past may have tried to bind us. But the future, our future, is forged by the choices we make now. Together, they stepped forward to exchange bonds, not just the mystical kind, but the living proof of respect, trust, and shared purpose. As the ceremony ended, a howl rose, echoing through the valley, a promise of unity and strength. Peace was fragile. Late that night, deep in the shadows of the forest, a figure moved with silent steps. It was Marek. Though humiliated and bound, he had escaped custody during a distracted moment. He crept toward the rogue stronghold, eyes burning with hatred. Inside, Oren sensed the shift, the wolf within her stirred. Kale, sensing it too, caught her arm. "We're not safe yet." She nodded, heart steady. "We face whatever comes." Marek struck just before dawn, attacking the outer guard tower with a small band of mercenaries. Chaos erupted. Kale and Kai led the defense, cutting through shadow and steel. Oren raced to the walls, blade flashing. In the fray, Marek confronted Oren face to face, his voice low and venomous. "You'll never be one of us. Never truly Alpha." Her blade was faster. "I am the Alpha we chose." The fight was brutal, but she forced him to yield, capturing him once more. With Marek securely bound, the council convened. What should be done? Hollowpine's Alpha asked. Kale's voice was firm. "He betrayed us all." Oren looked at Marek, then to the gathered Alphas. "We cannot be the same pack if we leave a traitor loose." The sentence was passed. Marek was exiled, stripped of title and lands, forced to wander alone. Weeks later, the sun rose on a united pack. Oren and Kale stood side by side on the cliff overlooking the valley. Kale reached for her hand. "No more running." Oren smiled, wolf and woman at peace. "No more rejecting." Together, they faced the horizon. The future was theirs.